since I know you two experienced what I experienced at Cornell, so I wanted to just go back a little bit in time and allow you guys to just ventilate anything that you have still regarding the season being canceled, and I guess just the experience that you were withheld from that other institutions like Aiko, who is not in the Ivy League, got to experience this past fall.
Within that, and honestly, even like up till now, throughout this entire pandemic, I just haven't felt prioritized in a sense, like as an athlete at our school, in the sense that obviously, like you're saying, many other athletes across the country at other institutions and in other conferences are afforded very different opportunities, and like their trainings and competitions during this time look a lot different than what we're experiencing. So of course, just initially just hearing that news that our season was done, not even that competition was over. Like that was the first message, I think, that our season was like actually done and we weren't going to compete, and there wasn't going to be a spring, and now there isn't going to be an indoor. And now hopefully we will have an outdoor, but time will tell with that as well. But just seeing how kind of the decision was made for us, about us, rather than for our season to be done, without any regard that honestly some people's lives do revolve around their sport, and it's a big piece of us. But I guess it is what it is, in a sense that we can't control it. And honestly, I wish there was a lot more that we could do about it, but honestly, it seems very much out of our hands and in theirs. So
I would just say that, like, at first I was really mad because I was like, what the heck, like, Cornell, what are you doing? And then I kind of realized, like, it's not necessarily like up to Cornell individually, and like that's where I had to be like, kind of be like, all right, like there obviously like a lot of decisions that go into it, and although it's very unfair that like other schools get to play, I have to also remember that Cornell and the Ivy League, they don't really like pay attention. I think the problem lies with the fact that like they don't treat sports as much as academics. So like where these other schools see sports very important as an athletic community, like they don't, I think that's where the problem is, that they don't see the athletic community, athletics in general, the same as academics. And I think that's why that decision was more easy for them to say no. So I think it's like bigger than just our school. I think it's like a whole Ivy League issue, and that they need to see athletics as much as academics, because people put in time, same amount of time to go to, and I honestly probably, I'm not gonna say more, but like we gotta do good at the ACT. So I just feel like we need to see them as the same and not have a stigma around athletes in general.
And not even the same, because I know that would be asking a lot of like, a traditionally very rigorous and like they hold education, like, at the highest level. But just understanding that, a lot of us are competing as D1 athletes, and that's not something that all athletes across the country can say. And we definitely train to work and compete at the same level as a lot of those athletes. So I feel like you should treat us and hold us to that same regard, like, hold us to that same standard. And because how much work you put into something, I feel like definitely shows how much you value it, how much you care about it. So if we're putting in the same work and we care about it just as much and we value it just as much, like you're saying, Jay, the Ivy League as a whole should kind of rewire themselves and take a look and reflect on how they view sports as a whole and how they treat their athletes and how, like, where we are held on the totem pole of like their priorities when they make decisions.
Yeah, and I also just think like people think like you can only be good at like one thing. Like you can't be smart and an athlete. Like you can't do something and do something else. So it's like when you go to school, they're like, oh, they can't be smart because they're an athlete, like, or they can't be an athlete because they're smart. Like it doesn't work like that. So I think that's like where that's like a whole other topic. So yes.
They also don't realize like you have to maintain a certain academic level to like be eligible to do your sport. Like, so it's not like you're not just like being good at your sport, you have to maintain the same academic level or higher than all the other students. So it's like asking for a little respect is not too much if you're giving that much to the school and the program. Like, I don't know.
And then
you have less time to do work. Like, you have to be smart. Like, it's a concept.
literally. And I feel like as athletes, you know, you're naturally motivated, you're naturally driven. So you're obviously not going to go for that bare minimum, like GPA requirement or whatever it is that you actually need to compete in your sport. You're going to go above and beyond, because obviously when you're going to school, you're also leaving and getting that degree, and you actually want to enter the workforce. So you, honestly, in my personal experience, I want to be the best at everything I do in life. So that goes to the classroom, that goes to when I'm jumping. Like, it doesn't matter. That same like effort, that same drive, motivation extends to anything that I do. So if I'm gonna put the same energy, work into everything, then I feel like I shouldn't only be getting that meaningfulness of that weight holding to what I'm working towards to get that degree. Should also apply to like what I honestly spend, we're gonna say, half my time on doing every day for these last, well, it's gonna be 4 years, but for these last 3 years. So I feel like I deserve that at the very least.
So I wanted to just also go back in time again and speak about the fall semester. But more so, I wanted to hear from Aiko and then from Monique and Jay about how like the COVID protocols were and like how training went, and I guess how you managed online classes. Were you online? Were you in person at all? Like just how that went down for you at University of Louisville.
First of all, before the semester even started, when they came out with this rule, like, oh, like international students can't enroll in online courses, I was just like, what do you mean? Like, that alone threw me for a loop. And I was like, well, I guess I'm not even going to play volleyball this semester because I'm not going to come back if I can't like legally be in the country. Anyway, so that segueing into like, I couldn't take all online classes technically. So some of my classes had to be in person, which I was enrolled in in-person classes, but the professor was kind of like, you don't have to come. So I didn't go because like, it just wasn't, I don't know, going on campus for an hour a day, especially if I wasn't practicing, was just kind of a lot, especially because, I don't know, it was just, I preferred to be online. But when I did go in person, like I had to wear my mask. Not many people went in person, and then they spaced out everyone in the classrooms. They had like green stickers on the places you could sit, and that's kind of it. I mean, I found it very hard to stay hydrated during the school day because like my mask was on and I could never like pull it down. And I'm someone that has my water bottle with me everywhere. So that was really hard from like an athletic standpoint. But COVID protocols with the team, I mean, before the season, we got tested once a week. Leading up to the season, we got tested, like we did like 3 PCR tests within a month. And then we had to like gradually like integrate with each other. We didn't get much locker room time because there's 14, 15 people on the team, and we had to split up us into 2 different groups. I'm sorry, there's a cat here, if you can hear him. And then it was weird because we had to wear masks while we were playing, which we did not suspect. So it took a while for us to get used to that. We couldn't really spend time with each other because we didn't want to catch COVID, and it was just weird, to be honest. ACC protocols were that we had to get tested 3 times a week during season. So we were getting tested at 6 a.m. on a Monday, a Tuesday, and a Thursday. So that was a lot. Just my nose started to hurt. It was just so different, but it became routine. I mean, masks on all the time, playing in masks, and then I sweat the most out of anyone I've ever met. So a volleyball game is like you play best 3 out of 5 sets, and I would have to change my mask every set. Like it would just get so sweaty, it was nasty. But I think the biggest thing was just masks while we played. And then we'd go to certain schools where the state guidelines were different, and we'd be playing in masks, but on the other side of the net, the other team wasn't playing in masks. So we were playing in masks to protect ourselves because of the interactions we would have with each other to like limit contact tracing. But then across the net, like when we played at Pittsburgh, they were not wearing masks at all. And we had the choice to play in masks or not, but for our own safety and like our own contact tracing, we're just like, we're gonna play in masks, because we don't want to have anyone like have to be out in the next coming weeks because of COVID. So like it was weird going state by state. in some gyms you could like pull your mask down if you were 6 feet away from someone, but in other gyms you couldn't do that. And I got in trouble because I went to go pull my mask down and they're like, you can't do that, you have to keep your mask on at all times. And I was like, I'm so sorry, like I'm just trying to breathe. Like, but I don't know, I don't know how to sum it all up because it was just so different. I don't really call it like a real season. We only played 5 schools out of like 20, and we're going to play the rest of them in the spring, so it was super short. We had someone out every week, either because of contact tracing or because of like catching COVID. I don't know how to describe it. I don't know. But the protocols were rigid. We got tested 3 times a week, and we didn't really get much time outside of what we had in practice because we couldn't be in the building for longer than like an hour to 3 hours, depending on how long practice was.
Ours was definitely more of like a gradual process, if you want to call it that. So we had like the phases. I don't know if your school also had those, but where we basically weren't allowed to practice with the coaches for a little while. Obviously, like all this is with math, with the regular surveillance testing that all the students on campus had to do. But then we got to like phase 1. I'm not even sure how many phases total there were / are, but like each phase kind of got more specific in the things that you could do related to your sport. And honestly, like you were saying throughout the whole thing, the best word to describe it is just different. Obviously, we weren't technically in season, being track is the winter and a spring sport. And the fall just passed, and they made the decision to like not move forward with an indoor season. So it was just different in the sense that although we do mostly do running, and we got to do some more jumping towards the end of the season, which was really nice, that it was different, but like the same in a sense that like once I got into the routine of like wearing a mask every day, all the time, it almost felt like we're not to wear one. Obviously in the beginning, I, like you're saying, I literally couldn't breathe. Maybe like the first month of practice while we were outside, my mask was like basically off. It was on, but off, to the point where exactly like where my nose was out, so like you can't tell that it's not on. But so just doing things like that. But now I would just like even be watching a movie and I see like the people going outside without a mask. I'm like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Like,
yes. Oh my gosh, yes.
Same.
So it's like the new norm, which is crazy to think of, but honestly just different in the best sense that I can describe it. Not the best, but just the best way I can describe it. But it's different. A lot of running with masks.
I don't know. When you just said about the mask and putting it down, I thought about like running like 150s or 200s, and when I tell you I did, I cannot breathe.
Literally.
I can't breathe without the mask running at 200. So like, anyways, Jay, how was your semester?
Well, I think soccer is just so hard because it's contact oriented, and it was just a mess, to be honest, because like I don't know how I'm supposed to like fake soccer, like it and like you said, like I can't run without a mask, but we had to wear a mask like at all times, like not taking off at all. And I actually got COVID, so I really couldn't breathe when I came back because like my lungs are like messed up. And for me, like being from South Florida, like COVID doesn't exist here. Cool. And then like it was just so different, and I'm not going back in the spring personally because I will get so much worse without contact and without really playing soccer. And the phases, like Monique was saying, like we didn't even reach to phase 3, which is like contact with a mask. Like we literally had to stay 6 feet apart at all times, which is like very hard in soccer. So I will not be returning, but but maybe if like things were to lighten up. But I'm hopeful this vaccine, my stepdad just got it, so I'm excited for the possibilities.
My mom just got that vaccine too. She said she's going to be a robot now. But we had to like stay 15 feet apart in Barton, which was also like crazy. Like in not even the 6, not the 10, 15 feet, which was obviously very difficult to just maneuver even think about. And that was just when we got access, like using the indoor track. So just before that, just the possibility that we wouldn't have been able to practice once it got cold in Ithaca, because it gets cold and snowy and rains so much. So like the indoor track was honestly like crucial in you even pretending to do track for the semester. So that was weird and different, but We did it.
That was crazy. I mean, I didn't even remember that we had phases until both you guys talked about phases. So like we volleyballers were part of phase 2 of bringing athletes back to campus, and we've been back since June. So like in those first 2 weeks, we weren't allowed to do anything. Then for a week we got to, well, I didn't get to because I came a week after everyone. I had to quarantine for 2 weeks separate from them. But like then we got to work out for a week without volleyball. And then with that, we had no rack partners. So everyone was on their own. You weren't allowed to help someone if they were like being crushed under a rack. Like it was like crazy. Like don't touch anyone's things. And before and after everything, we like spray it down, wipe it down, mask on at all times. And then after that week, we got to practice in groups of 4 to 6 people. I don't know how much you guys know about volleyball, but you can't do anything by yourself other than serve. We weren't allowed to share balls because they were still trying to figure out the sanitation process. It was really weird.
How does that work?
Like, I don't.
It didn't. We made it work. So all we did was serve.
Okay.
Really, and like do footwork and stuff without the ball because we weren't allowed to like share germs yet. And then like after a couple of weeks, we were able to practice in groups of 8 to 10 instead of like 4 to 6, which still like isn't enough to like get like a whole game going because it's 6 people on each side. But then we're allowed to share balls, so with pairs. So like it was really like slow phases. Like first, don't share balls, and you can only share balls with one person. And all this time the coaches weren't with us. And then so like I didn't even remember all of that until you guys said it, because I was just like, oh yeah, we had a season. It was short. But like, and that was all like June to August. And then we like kind of started working with the coaches. It was weird. It was really weird. But like Monique said, the real word I only have is like, the only word I really have is different. But yeah.
Well, it sounds like everybody had a challenging semester. I totally agree. I don't know how I would describe this semester. And it kind of like flew by. I don't know how you guys feel in a sense, but for me, I feel like it flew by very quickly. And the year too, I feel like quarantine, at least for me, the experience in Canada was like a real quarantine year in a different world. So we actually did that. And so I felt like I was quarantined and trapped versus like, living outside. So yeah, I feel like it may look different for everybody too. But I wanted to also ask you guys, because I get this question a lot anytime I do like a Q&A on YouTube, your advice for student athletes. So one, your advice about staying organized. We touched on this before about how the sport balances out everything else we do, but as real as possible, just say how you stay organized if you do. And then I'd like to get into like any advice you have for incoming student athletes or high school recruits or somebody, that is aspiring to go to school and do, collegiate sports.
Well, I am very organized, almost like too organized. Like Aiko, like I do the same thing on Sundays. Every night I like write down my week, like when I'm training, when I'm doing this. Like I used to do every hour, but I thought that was a little too much. So I honestly think like writing stuff down, or even like on like an iPad or something, not that tech savvy. So like I like to write things down. But then like that feeling you get when like you cross something off is like the best feeling in the world. So I honestly wish I did that more in high school rather than like try to just remember. So like when I write stuff down, and then like, and don't try to like overdo yourself. Like don't commit to too many things. I did that a lot. Like I would try to do like pack my day in, and like I wouldn't leave time for myself. And that's what I'm doing more now. Like self-care, like meditation is huge for me. Like I love that. And just like honestly, my advice to incoming people is like be present in like all of the things that you do, because I wish I was like enjoying like the process of like going to different schools, figuring out what one I want to go to, like and honestly celebrating the things that you do. Like I feel like that's a big thing. Like when we had qualified for the World Cup, I was like, I didn't really celebrate as much as I wish I did, because now it's like gone, and that's such a like historic moment. But I think like celebrating the little things, like graduating, like I don't know, like everything really, everything you do, and like writing it down so you remember. That's like what I would say.
Staying organized. I feel like I always say I'm like a contradiction because I feel like I am a pretty organized person, but at the same time, I would not call myself the most organized person. So just because like if I feel very overwhelmed, I definitely like say write down, definitely having the list and all that. But then sometimes I find it just easier to just kind of go with the flow in a sense and kind of just deal with things as they come. And definitely in my head, like I prioritize what I want to get done, and understanding that's probably a big way on staying organized, actually, just making sure that you know where things stand basically for you and prioritize doing those things first, and then taking it on as it goes after that. But I think that's also just the way that I don't let all that I have to do or all that's on my plate stress me out, and that I just kind of take it as it comes, deal with it as it comes, and just understand that everything will get done. Sometimes if it doesn't, that's okay. I just say what's meant to be will be. So that's just that. But, and then my advice kind of stems along that same line in a way, but also something that I learned definitely just going through my college experience, that you just have to make sure you ask for help and have the people that you need to be there for you and like lean on them. They say this is like where I give off only child vibes, but I think this shows that I am definitely a middle child to the core, and that like I'll try to do things independently, take on whatever I need to by myself, try to figure it out by myself. And I was like that for a really long time until I just realized sometimes it's just easier to ask the question or just tell someone like, I don't know, and then have someone there to help you figure it out. You know, like they say, two brains better than one, or just teamwork makes the dream work, all of that. Just having other people there for you, other people just keeping what you need in mind and kind of showing you what you need, or helping you find something that you don't know, can save a lot of time, help you be more organized, and just save you a lot of stress and anxiety that you really don't need in your life. So especially being in college, especially entering the real world, that would be my biggest piece of advice. Just understanding that although you're growing into your adulthood, it's okay to not know. It's okay to ask for help.
Yeah, mine is kind of a mixture of both Jay's and Monique's. I mean, to stay organized, I write everything down, but I'm more like, I use my phone, so everything is in my like Google Calendar. And like, even if I just have like a phone call with someone, I'm putting it in the calendar because I will forget like anything. Like if I need to like meditate, I'm gonna put it in the calendar, and the calendar looks really messy, but I always know what I have to do. I mean, it's a bit harder for me now. I kind of take it day by day or every 2 days at a time because things are changing so quickly. But like Jay said, like everything is written down one way or the other. If it's not like on the whiteboard on the fridge, it's on my phone, or like it's on one of those sticky notes on my laptop. Like it's, I just have to see it to remember it. And then like going off what Monique said, like one thing I would say to anyone coming in is that, one, know your worth, because don't settle for something like if you know you can go better, or don't, it's okay to pass up the opportunity at the bigger school that you're probably not gonna play at, to go to a school that's just as good in everything, probably just less known, and you're gonna have the opportunity of a lifetime. And that's something I had to do. Like I really wanted to go to this big school. They're in the Big Ten, like great at volleyball, but I knew like I would never see the court. Versus like if I came to Louisville, where like I know the coaches were still good, I knew I'd get playing time, and playing is what I want. Like know what you want and know what you're worth, and be able to, even if you can't sell yourself, because I'm not very good at selling myself either, but like know what you deserve, I think, and go after that. And then kind of like what Jay said, be present, but more in the sense of when it's time to practice, be present at practice. And then if you leave practice and you're going to class, like be present in class, but never, try not to bring outside things into your sport as much as you try not to let your sport affect your like the rest of your life, because it's really hard mentally to have all that stuff to juggle. But it helps to just like, our sports psychologist once told my team, like, before you open the door to go into the gym, take a deep breath, leave everything outside, and then go in. And it made practice so much better. So being present is a really important thing, especially if you're away from home. Like, don't spend a lot of time thinking about like, oh, I miss my mom, or I wish I was home with my friends. Like more like, oh, wow, like I'm here and I get to do this really cool thing. So like, I'd say know your worth. It's okay to say no, and be present. I think I kind of stole both of your points, but like those were things that worked for me like throughout my whole time here. So yeah.
That's beautiful advice. And I wanted to know also for you guys, I guess, since at least for me, this year kind of traumatized me, I'm not gonna lie. In terms of planning, I'm a planner. I have type A personality, like to the T. That's me. So I wonder for you guys, given that we have some planners, you have some 50% planners, like what are you trying to strategize for yourself, I guess, going into the new year? Are you gonna keep that same, momentum, or maybe, pandemic changes a little bit? How do you think strategize your year, and do you make plans? Do you don't?
Mhm. I feel like I start my year kind of the same way in a sense every year. And it's just going in with that like very broad overall goal that I just want to grow. And like how I'm going to grow may look different tomorrow, next week, or next month, but just kind of keeping that same goal in mind, I guess you could say. And it's going to change obviously, and like what it means for me to grow is going to change depending on the day, hour, minute, second, whatever it is. So I just think not getting too specific with what you want to accomplish is extremely important, especially as we've seen as of late, because plans can change. Like, you can't control everything. You don't know what the future has in store, but I just know for one thing that I'm going to continue to work to being my best self. So just whatever I need to do to accomplish that, just understanding myself and growing to understand myself more. That's also a really big thing. Just making sure that I'm doing that and I'm keeping that at the forefront, just tackling whatever comes my way and just figuring out what I need to do to continue to, make those steps to be who I want to be when I look in the mirror. And just my biggest goal and my how I plan to approach 2021.
Yeah, I think I've developed this thing. I like to call it pandemic planning, because I'd like to think that when this is all over, I'll go.
That.
I know, hashtag pandemic planning. But I'd like to think that when this is all over, I'll go back to like planning my whole week and like nothing really changing. But for now, I'm kind of going to carry over what I've been doing and just like 2 days at a time, have a general idea of what I'm going to do like this month. Like I know like this day I'm going to go this place, but like kind of like Monique said, like not being too specific, because there's been too many days where I'm like, oh yeah, we're gonna do this, this, and this. And then they're like, oh, actually, we need you to come an hour early so you can get temperature checked before you go in the building. And like, we need you to do a COVID test tomorrow. And I'm like, well, I had plans, but I guess I don't. So I'm kind of just gonna be like, okay, I know when school starts, I know when the season starts, but I'm kind of just gonna be like, maybe I'll go for ice cream tomorrow. And I think one big thing about every day that I do is I try and leave time for myself to like regroup, even though I'm not like seeing a lot of people. I do like to say I'm an introvert and I have a lot of social anxiety, but even though I'm not like seeing everyone, like going a lot of places, I still find that at the end of the day, I need to be like, I made it through another one. Tomorrow is another, like, you know what I mean? Because this time is so different and so demanding in a weird way. But yeah, 2 days at a time, keep it general, pandemic planning.
I don't know about you guys, but I'm scared because we're about to leave, I'd say, like structure. Like I think we're about to be like actually grown adults, like in the real world, like families, maybe school, like stuff like we're about to be like actually without basically in a pandemic, because like we're not gonna have any structure, and that gives me like, I actually think I could cry thinking about it, because like it freaks me out, because like I obviously have my goals and stuff, but like the thought of like not waking up in the morning, like having to go to practice, like I'll have so much freedom. So like I'm trying to like do what Monique is saying. That's my goal, is like being okay with the uncertainties in life. And that is, I think, the hardest thing anyone can do, because it incorporates like being present and all these things that like I am so terrible at. And like, even though I say like that's what you should do, I'm like really bad at it. So I'm trying to be okay with like the uncertainties that life will bring you, because I'm the type of person, like I'm playing it out, like it will come out the way I plan it, like it will not. So like when people are like, oh, sometimes things in life don't come out what you think, like I'm like, no, I hate that, like I need to be okay with that. So for this year, I'm going to do what Monique is saying, and I'm going to like have an overall goal. I do like to plan like 3 years out, like where I see myself, just so like I have like tangible goals. So like being in medical school, but like I also think like pandemic planning is going to be what I'm going to be doing. So I'll do it like 2 days at a time, but like it won't be so rigorous because we're going to be like, I don't think people really understand. Like we're going to be literally be like thrown one day, just freedom to do so many things. And if like I'm sitting here having a panic attack about like tomorrow because I don't know what I'm doing, like that's not going to be okay. So I'm going to be okay with uncertainties. That is my goal.
Jay, you just brought this to my mind. I'm sorry, you're really funny. But like, has anyone thought about the fact that like in a couple of years, this pandemic is gonna be like in the history books or whatever, and like it's gonna be our turn as this generation to claim the truth and be like, that's not how it went. Has anyone thought about that? Because yesterday I had a full realization, like now people are talking about like, that history book is missing the fact that Christopher Columbus was a racist, and then like it's gonna be our turn to be like, actually, this is what happened. Like, has anyone thought about that? I don't know. It hit me yesterday, and Jay just brought that to my mind. But I'm just like, I don't know if I'm ready to.
That's why I've been saying to myself, like, I don't know if I'm ready for anything, and I don't think we ever are. I really think we're just gonna be like literally like trying not to panic. Like pandemic panic, I literally started crying because that was so funny. Like that is literally how I feel all the time.
No, I feel that. I think about that all the time actually, because like I don't know, I even like in terms of like journaling and stuff, I do that a lot. Like I feel like I didn't do well enough in like documenting what has happened, and I know how my memory is. I might not remember the facts, but like it will be my responsibility at some point to deliver those facts, and our children or whoever is gonna ask us. And for sure, I don't know how that will go, but yeah, this was monumental.
Yeah, that's so true. Like I thought about the fact that we are living through something like you're saying monumental, historic, but I just kind of forgot that I would also have the responsibility of kind of sharing that knowledge like with people who aren't experiencing this. And like you're saying, Leonie, my memory is like actual trash. Like I can't remember some things from last week. It's just sad. So you give it like 20 years to where like, you know, people haven't been able to like live through this and they don't know what happened during this time.
I feel like
I don't know how much I have to share.
I feel like life is like when we were younger, we were like, oh, I want to do this, I want to do that. Like we're like, we have like a general idea, but now like we're forced to like actually think about like the specific things. And I'm like, dang, like I'm really not like, you never think about it. Like it's not like I don't want to do anymore, but it's just like I'm kind of freaked out because it's like I really have to do it now. Like
I've always known I wanted to do this, but I didn't think about how I was gonna have to get there. And now that I know, I'm like, I'm not sure. Like,
Exactly. And then there's all these other options, like things that you've never even heard of, and like other paths within that same like general field you wanted to go into that you could now explore. And it's like you have to narrow it down and actually like choose what you want to do for the rest of your life. That's big.
We're really just starting. Like we're really just starting life, guys. Honestly. Crazy.
Yeah, it's not okay. All right, let's go help our buddies. Because okay, so I wanted you guys to just say one thing. We're talking about planning. Just say one thing, and I challenge anybody watching this to maybe comment below or something of that sort that you will do next week. Then, as Aiko said, pandemic planning, realistic. But that you can be accountable for, that will help you to be a better person, a better yourself in the following year. One thing. And I'll go first. So I also have been doing blood planning in terms of, I guess, like meals and hydration. So I'll say in terms of hydrating aspect, because of the mask, I need to fill this up every morning and drink it at least 2 times full. That is my goal.
I think I'm gonna have to purge. Like I'm gonna have to sit down in my apartment. Not like no, wait, let me clarify. Not like purge.
Pandemic purge.
Bro, you
This is
yes, but no. Like, I'm gonna sit in my apartment and like go through everything and leave a lot of things behind. Like, I'm not bringing unnecessary things into 2020 because like if my space is cluttered, then I'm cluttered. So like I have to like, I'm gonna do like a full apartment purge. Let's specify #pandemic purge. And like just so that I can enter 2020 with the clearest of minds and then start from there. Yeah, I'm gonna add that hashtag to the chat.
No, I'm not gonna steal yours, Leonie, but definitely like fueling. Hurry up. Okay.
I can't.
Definitely like fueling and hydrating myself well is one thing, but I just think I need to reflect. Like I don't think I've actually like sat down and really given myself the chance to kind of like think about what I want to do right now for me to be like my best self in a sense, like what I actually need and like want to see for myself. So maybe obviously the first step to figuring that out is reflection. So in the nearest future, like that's something that I really want to do, just be able to like kind of sit down with myself and reflect.
Yeah, that scares me, but like I'm gonna get there. So like what I'm starting to do now is when I tell you everything in my life that I do not enjoy doing but still subject myself to doing is not coming to 2021. That's what's happening. Like I'm not hanging out with people that like bother me, aren't on the same wave, like that I literally have to like change who I am as a person. Like not doing it. Like I don't want to get into specifics, but like I'm not like doing things that do not make me feel good about myself, because I feel like as you get older, that stuff like starts to hurt you more and more. Like I feel like it's so much harder to like do something you don't like because you know what you do like and you know what your goals are. So it's like, why are you even doing it? So it's like, I'm not doing it anymore. So I'm done. That's one. And then I'm going to try to do like the self-reflection. That just scares me because I feel like I'm just not really good with uncertainties. So like if I don't know something, I'm like panicking. So I'm on increments, maybe like 5 minutes.
No, but I feel that because like even just thinking about like the things you can't control, right, gives me a lot of anxiety. But I feel like sometimes you just have to give it a thought, because like if you never think about it, in my mind, like I can easily like just keep something out of sight, out of mind, and it won't worry me. I won't get anxiety about it until I start thinking about it again. Which I feel like is very problematic. No, I feel like that's so problematic because you never get to like the root of what you really need to. You never start taking those steps to like really address it and like, you know, figure out what steps you need to take to make that not give you anxiety.
Yes.
So that's something that I work on.
You know what? That's something we're gonna work on, because anxiety, we're gonna switch the script. Anxiety is good. Like you want it, everything you feel, you should feel. Like don't try to suppress it.
Validate your feelings.
Yeah. Like never try to be like I'm not sad. Like be sad.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, cry. Just cry a little.
Okay with how you're feeling, because like then you won't be scared of it anymore. You know?
Exactly. Just face it head on.
Facts.
Exactly.
We need a trademark name for that.
Yeah.
No, honestly, Aiko, if you don't put up on a shirt now, I'm gonna have to make one for you, because that's you did.
We're gonna have to collab on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's marketing guru, like.
Who needs school? Like, I don't need a degree. Like, biology where?
Okay, we can't even start that conversation. Okay, well, that was actually my last question, guys. This has been a great conversation. Thank you guys so much for watching this episode of Unresolved Overcoming 2020. Make sure you guys like, subscribe, comment down below, and turn on the notification bell for next week's episode. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.
There's pink black girls in my area cold, dark skin, light skin, medium tones, permting braids got mini afros, thick lips got